Oh, g'day everyone, and welcome to another edition of the Weekend Wrap brought to you by Crowcast, a very sombre edition. Sorry for the late start, a few domestic duties to contend with, but we're all good to go now, so without any further ado, why don't we just crack straight in, shall we? Good evening, everyone, and welcome to, as it turns out, our last weekend wrap reviewing a match for the season, which is a lot sooner than we all would have hoped, I'm sure. Thanks to everyone who's joined us on Discord and on YouTube. We have a decent crowd in on both platforms, so thanks very much for joining us. And of course, as usual, we have, 2/3 of my cohort. Macca, how are you, mate?
Probably the same as you, mate. Bitterly disappointed with a pathetic performance.
Yes, that's correct. And large male Caucasian, how are you, mate?
Yeah, just doing fantastic thing.
Yeah. That's about right. Oh, shit. Now, Brownie is absent tonight. He's away fishing and drinking, and I had the pleasure of going to the match and witnessing that murder on his ticket, and I know who got the better end of that deal, and it wasn't me. Wasn't me. Never mind. Oh, dear. All right, don't forget, it's live and interactive as always on the Crowcast, so if any of you on the Discord chat want to have your say, then please feel free to stick your hand up and we will definitely get you on board. Also, for those on YouTube chat, if you want your comment read out, just hit a super chat there and we would gratefully read your comment out. Now, I don't even know where to start. So let's start at the beginning. Mac, I felt like it all started when we only made the one change, Rochelle for Bond, and we started Brodie Smith on the ground and Rochelle as the sub. And as soon as I saw those moves, I thought, here we go, we are going to shit the bed.
It's very hard to argue with you, mate. It's very hard to argue with it all. I certainly didn't like the way the side was lined up. It certainly didn't. I didn't. In my opinion, it certainly wasn't our best side, and it was more. Give the old hands a try because they played a lot of footy. That was one of the things possibly. But there were a couple of selections I thought that defied logic, and a couple of matchups that I thought defied logic as well. So I thought we, not only did we not pick our best side possible for a final, we also probably didn't use the players that we did have on the ground as well as we could have. I just thought it was a nightmare from the coaching staff all round, and it was off the field and then during the game. I just thought it was a nightmare, and they got it all wrong. Totally wrong, and I think the result speaks for itself. I mean, the opening matchups, the opening matchups at the centre bounce. Berry on Newcomb. Newcomb he has been playing so well. He's white hot. You cannot put Berry, who's probably really, he's still learning the game. Really, he's not in the same league, and so and look, he was instigated the first 3 goals in the first 3 minutes, and psychologically, the whole game was just smashed in those first 3 minutes. If anything, if we had any self-belief before the game, I reckon it got smashed in those first 3 minutes.
Yes, it certainly wasn't the start that we were looking for. I agree with you about the matchups. We talked about Mark Keane on Gunston, and that was an absolute failure, and he stuck with that for most of the night. We started with Berry on Newcomb, and Newcomb just ragdolled him, and I actually thought that was a real failure not only by the coaching staff but also the captain. I would have taken matters into my own hand if I was the captain and just stood on him. So I thought that was a bit of a failure of leadership. There are a few other bits and pieces that we'll go through, but I just felt like overall, big man, you and I were both at the game, Matt. You weren't at the game, were you? You were watching on telly.
No, thank God I wasn't.
At the game, the two things that stood out to me, big man, and I'd be interested in your thoughts on this, were one, we had no intensity whatsoever, and the stats will show that we lost contested ball, we lost ground ball, we lost all the things that are our trademark. And secondly, we just had no ability to transition the ball. We just could not move the ball. And it wasn't, Hawthorn set up well, obviously, but there was no urgency about how we were trying to move the ball.
Yeah. Two pretty salient points, Finn. There's been a lot of talk about us being ill before the game, but it's still hard to excuse just that differential and contested possession. But that's been such a strong point of us all year. It almost suggests that the boys thought they were going to lose before the game even started. And if that's true, or if that's the case for at least some of them, then that's also on the coaching staff to not get them mentally ready for the game. There's no reason for us to have lost that game when you step back and look at how things are. Like the minor premier, you lose a qualifying final. They almost never lose the following game, the semi. It's usually a smashing. But we look like a team that was scared, and we looked like that last week, and we look like it this week, and so something obviously went wrong there. In terms of transition, that's been a problem for a little while now, hasn't it? We've talked about that.
Yep.
That teams have slowed us down, and we haven't been able to adjust. We're just getting the job done against lesser teams. Still think that Collingwood win was really good a few weeks ago, but for the most part, the last month or so we've been pretty stodgy, unattractive team to watch, and that really hurts you against teams that know what they're doing defensively and offensively, because not only did they stop us, but they absolutely burnt us going the other way. So lots to think about. And then, of course, you touched on the selection. I don't think we could have made about 3 other changes and we still lose that game, but we certainly didn't set ourselves up for a good chance at it. I was also surprised that it was just Rochelle for Bond. In fact, I thought Bond was stiff. I thought Hinge was the one that should have made way and would have been a nice little statement by Nix.
Spot on.
It was a good opportunity, Macca, and he didn't take it. In fact, he started him on the ground. The Smith thing had been a nice little, sort of like you got to be ruthless sometimes. Like, I'm not saying Smith's the reason we lost, but it's just sort of indicative of where the mindset is. It was a nice story, and he's a guy with experience and finals experience, and that doesn't really count for much when you're at Smith's age and ability these days.
Well, if you look at it from specifically from a team need point of view, Brodie Smith should be, along with Miller, a running half back. And where we fell down was that connection piece off half back and the lack of movement off half back. So, Brodie was a nice story and all the rest of it, but he didn't actually give us what we needed from him in that position. You could argue that Bond might not have either. I don't know whether I would have dropped Hinge, but certainly playing Smith instead of Bond, I think, was a negative, and he didn't provide us anything. And good teams rebound off halfback. Most good teams have got good halfback flankers. Collingwood have got Josh Dacos, and Hawthorn have Weddle and a couple of, and Amon and Impey and those blokes that give them good service off halfback. We didn't have anything off halfback. Miller had played well, but his kicking wasn't aggressive or decisive. It was just, little chips here and there. He didn't break lines or anything like that. So I thought the selection of Smith was a real mistake. And I thought, I just couldn't understand, if you want to get off to a good start and, you're fighting against bad news stories like Rankin, don't you want to lean into the good news story of Rash coming back, and you're playing for as long as his legs will take him, and you hope you get a spark from him early?
Yeah.
Well, that's what we said for him like last week. You said if he's going to play, you start him, and then just if he gets cooked, that's when you sub him off. Hopefully, you can have the ability to do that. But instead, Nick's basically went against his word. He said that he was 100% ready, but then you start him as a sub. Well, then he's obviously not ready because Rochelle is a top 6-7 player in our list, and you decide that he's the sub in a cutthroat semi-final. Clearly, he wasn't 100% in their eye. So either he is or isn't. And he kicked 2 goals when he came on. He looked a little off, but still more effective than most of the team. Just a stupid decision, let's be honest. And there's a few stupid decisions.
Yeah, the game was done by the time he got on the ground. And we missed that spot.
I thought, we needed it. And look, the way it panned out, we got slaughtered so quickly. I mean, we were in the game late in the first, but there was enough signs there to be worried about. I still think we need to reconsider our stance on tagging. It seems like most clubs, or the good clubs, tag. Geelong certainly like to tag. Brisbane do a fair job of it with Dunkley at times. We don't seem to have any respect for the art of tagging, and yet Newcombe killed us on the weekend. Dacos and Sidebottom killed us the week before. It brought a lot of questions, and I'm sure we'll discuss that further on. But it seems like the coaches and selectors set us up. We set ourselves up for a likely failure, and the players weren't able to make up for it because they were off too, and it was just a bit of a disaster all round.
Yeah. Again, Macca, I thought, and I don't know whether you saw it on the telecast, but I thought Matthew Nicks pre-game looked particularly nervous once again, and I think that we can categorically say about Matthew Nicks that he is a nervous conservative coach who doesn't trust his players.
If I'm allowed to say it, which I will, he looked like he shat himself. He really did look stressed, absolutely. And that will rub off on the players. I mean, if he's super stressed, and watch Mitchell. Mitchell is in command. He is in command of himself all the time, and it rubs off on his players. And as opposed to Nicks, who looked like he was, as you say, he almost looked sick that he looked so nervous about the whole thing. Now, I understand it is a big deal when you haven't been there before as a coach, he's been there as an assistant, Macca, with Port and with GWS. Yeah, I understand. I'm not excusing him, mate. No.
I'm just adding that point that, it's a furphy to say he hasn't experienced finals before, because he has.
Yeah, it's going to be a big butt after that. And like you said,
sorry,
as a player, he's been there and he's participated on the ground. He knows what it's like out there, and he should know what it's like, what you have to do. I really think during this season you criticised him quite often for not giving young players a go when we were travelling pretty well. And I think we did pay the price for that. Smith was one of the examples of that. Edwards, I saw play a superb game in the twos. I thought he's a guy that should have played games during the year, never got his opportunity. And I think it might have been that if he had been given opportunities during the year, he might have been the man that took Smith's place. But you couldn't just do it without having given him the taste of it before.
Of course not.
So
they backed themselves into a corner, Mac. They backed themselves into a corner, and it meant that, we had situations like Laird running through the middle. And look, Laird didn't do bad in both games. He was one of our better players. But the simple fact that we had to go back to that because we simply had no tried depth to speak of. And that's an indictment on selection policies earlier in the season. And if we had players that were a little bit banged up, with injuries, we didn't manage them well enough. We had plenty of opportunities during the course of the season to manage our squad. I think whilst you could argue, and we'll probably discuss later on a couple of gaps in our list, I think squad development is a bigger issue than list management. And the way they manage, I think Nick's and co settled on their best 26 very, very early, and that best 26 included Lockie Murphy, which is unbelievable. And it just, at the end of the day, they left themselves with nowhere to go when blokes were maybe carrying a niggle.
Yeah, and in fairness, Led, I thought he did a good job when he was asked to do it. But of course, that meant he moved from a position he was doing a good job in. So you're robbing Peter to pay Paul, and you've still got the same problem, haven't you? Just moved it to a different spot, because you don't have that player that can fill in there. He's only one player. So no, I just think that you're quite right. I think Nick's is the type that this is his squad. This is his team. There with a couple extras, so maybe there's 25 players, maybe it's 26 players, and he doesn't see outside that. But you got when you see somebody like Edwards playing very well, you've got to reward it. Now Curvis, is another one that I don't think he got a fair go. I mean, when Nick's and Murphy played bloody games on nothing. So,
and sorry to interrupt you, Macca, but not only did those blokes not get a run, but they were shuffled out of their positions, and you have Edwards shuffled to a half-back flank to cater for Lockie Murphy playing midfield minutes. You got Luke Nankervis playing every position except the one that suits him. I touched on this on a post on Big 40 that some people may have read. I feel like we are not strong enough to, when you go through our lists and you see how many players have actually been redeployed to other positions because they've failed in the position that they've been drafted for, like Chase Jones, Charlie Edwards, Billy Dowling, Braden Cook, Luke Nankervis. So many players are playing out of position, even in the A's. Hugh Bonder's a midfielder. He's not a lockdown defender. He's done well in that position. Zach Taylor, who did really well, big man, in the last quarter, despite there being a little bit of heat off the game, he showed what he could do in traffic. All these, we're playing Ranks as a first rotation midfielder when really he's a forward with a pinch hitting mid role, not the other way around. We don't give Luke Pedler any midfield minutes. We don't give Rochelle any midfield minutes. We have messed around with players that have come into a squad based on excelling in a certain position, and we've tried to play Tetris with the whole thing instead of just playing blokes in their position and assessing them in that position. And, either they fail or succeed. And if they fail, you turn them over and bring in someone else to try in that position. You don't just redeploy the whole bloody list.
I mean, there's been a big focus at the club on having players being able to play multiple positions because they want that flexibility in game. But you also
don't use that flexibility,
between,
big man.
Well, they do, but sometimes. But there's not the players that should. I mean, I don't know, like Keezy and Lairdy, I thought we'd moved past this playing him in the guts. And as you said, Lairdy didn't do a whole lot wrong, but there was a reason he was moved out of there in the first place because our midfield mix wasn't working with him in it. We know he can find the ball. We know he's a clearance beast. It's how those clearances affect us in a positive sense, though. And look, to be fair, the last few weeks we've just needed clearances in general, regardless of the quality, because we just can't get our hands on it. But you're right, Finn. We are playing some players out of position or trying to pigeonhole them into other positions that it's the old square peg in a round hole. And I mean, I know he's my boy, but Taylor's a great example. I'm glad he's been able to get an opportunity at the club or in the team this year by playing as a forward, but he's a centre square midfielder. Exactly. They want to play in the midfield, in the forward line, because they don't trust his tank. And I said before in the chat, I know you said, as you said, the heat was out of the game, but if his running ability is so important, then how can he have 9 touches in the last quarter of a semi-final? Playing his natural spot. Clearly he's it's not that big a deal. Do you know what I mean?
After having chased MP around all day.
Yeah.
It's not as if he wouldn't do anything.
Sometimes I wonder if coaches they're at the club so much they sometimes don't see the forest for the trees, and they don't actually some ways don't have a clear view of things because they're so entrenched in things, and I think they overthink things at times, and I think that's an example, and there's been other examples like Nank and others that we were just sort of overthought it and created problems for ourselves by not playing players in their natural positions where they should thrive.
Yeah. So, look, Mac, a couple of things. I touched briefly on Keane early on. I don't know whether you saw the Sunday Footy show today. I didn't, but I saw the YouTube
I didn't.
cut. I saw the YouTube cut of their analysis of our game, and the way in which Mark Keane didn't defend Gunston was horrific, and how that was allowed to continue for the majority of the game is beyond me. Mark Keane was at no stage did he recognise that Gunston was a threat. It should have been pointed out to him before the game that Gunston, you can't play off him. And Keane just played off him. He wasn't even... Like the first goal that they kicked, Keane dropped back to the goal square when the ball's 20 metres out from goal. He's no use there. Gunston runs up to the play, gets the ball and snaps a goal over his head. And there were 3 or 4 examples of that from Mark Keane. Now, he's had a good year, but he's a defender, first and foremost, and he was on their most dangerous, tall to medium forward, and he got an absolute bath, Macca.
Well, I thought it was a total mismatch in the sense that Keane is a player that backs himself, like you said, but at times he was... Gunston's a wily old bugger. He's been playing since Adam started with playing, and he knows all the tricks of the trade. And I remember one stage there, the ball was around about centre wing, and I could see in the background Gunston was about 30 metres.
Yeah, he backed right off him.
He was at 30 metres away from him, 30 metres away, and Keane's tearing up the ground, looking at the play. Of course, the ball goes straight away, not in his direction, it goes straight to bloody Gunston all on his own. And look, it was a horrible matchup. Horrible. And, I think there was only one bloke I think that could have done a real good job on it, and that was Worrell. Worrell was I thought he played an excellent game, Worrell, and he just bursts his guts out. He really does every time. And there's no way Gunston would have got that many goals on Worrell.
No.
I know a player that would have... So I was going to say, I know a player that would have stuck to his opponent that we didn't want to play.
We didn't play him.
Yeah, number 41. I know he wasn't the perfect matchup for Gunston, but at least Butsy would have absolutely locked on to playing on Gunston.
Yeah.
He would look in hindsight. It would have been better to have Butts than Murray because I didn't think Murray had a great game either. Whereas Butts certainly does stick to his man. That's one thing he does do.
But
and just before you move on.
Yeah, go on.
Sorry, sorry, Finn. I was going to say just before we move on, but this is not to discount how good Keane's been this year, but you got to play players to their strengths. And Keane's not the finished product yet. He's an Irish convert who's only been in the game a few years still. That's how impressive he's been. To be all Australian squad, but he's not a great defender. He's a fantastic interceptor and rebounder, and we. If I said to you, who are you worried about kicking goals for Hawthorn? I would have said Gunston and Watson. Yeah. And we didn't put to put Keane on Gunston. He's the last person I would have put on. And you got to play someone with less mobility and less creativity because those players will play off him, and Keane doesn't know how to adjust at the moment. So yeah, he's got really good ability. Keane, he's got some traits that are quite elite, as I mentioned, but he's also got weaknesses, and we just exposed him and didn't want to make a change. It was bizarre. It felt very Joel and Marty from last year. It just felt like that all over again.
It's terrible.
Yeah,
terrible.
And I don't think we've ever seen our defence this season has always been the sum of the parts, and whether it's been Murray in or Butts in, I feel like they were much more cohesive with Butts in than with Muzz. I think Muzz will probably benefit for the off season. I don't think he was ever right since he's come back from his knee.
Why?
but we've never seen Keane be successful in a one-on-one situation like Manning. Like Amadi is a good example that you brought up before, and it's almost like we're in a situation now. I'd be almost inclined to play Keane as the intercept defender. Almost like a half-back. He's got good speed. He doesn't mind, biting off a pass. He's good aerially. He'd be like, at present, he'd probably be better in that role than Mitch Hinge, to be perfectly honest with you. And
Anybody
then you
would
could
be at the moment.
yeah, so, and now we've got a situation with Butsy in the twos that he's starting to get a bit of interest from other clubs. And you wouldn't blame the bloke because, unfortunately, because of his injury, he's now back on the outer. And you wouldn't blame him for going to a Western Bulldogs or a North Melbourne. So it's going to be very interesting to see what we do with his situation. I know he's under contract, but that doesn't really mean anything these days.
I would say I would be doing a Himmelberg there, Fiend. I would unless something really like something crops up where we're like, okay, this is because look, let's be honest, his value is the highest it's ever going to be given he's contracted and he's played good footy this year and clubs are desperate for a key defender. And we know that Bulldogs and North are both interested in him, so there could be a bit of a war there. So our maximum return's probably now, but if it's not good enough, and everyone will have different opinions on what's good enough, but if it's not enough to give him up, then just keep him because like we did that with Himmelberg, and he's a much more important player than Himmelberg was to what we need next year because there's not much after him in terms of what we have in reserve, and I think there's a good chance that he. Yeah, and there's a good chance that, if with a good pre-season, which Butsy didn't have this year because he was coming off that foot injury, that he can get back in the 22. So I just think we need to be a bit ruthless here. And look, I know he's going to get better opportunities elsewhere potentially, but he's still our contracted player. Hold him for another year and then let him go if he wants to go still.
What would make you move? What would make you trade him, big man? You say you wouldn't. There's always a price for everything. What is the price?
It's unfortunate this year's draft isn't super great, but I still think there's probably enough South Australian talent there to want to still look at a potentially good pick in the draft.
I don't think a draft pick does it. I think it has to be a player.
North Melbourne. But you don't want to get a player just for the sake of it. Now, potentially it could be used in an Archie deal. Is that a great move for us though? Getting rid of Butts to get Archie, one for one. No. I feel like I'd rather have both at the club than just one. I think a high draft pick, in the first round, not a high first rounder, but a first round in general, could be something we look at in terms of trying to get more youth into the team. But I know people talk about North's second, North have Richmond's second pick in the draft, second round pick, which is the start of the second round. Second pick. Sorry, it's very confusing, but North have their own and also Richmond's.
Yeah.
At least one of those picks, that's going to get pushed back into the mid to late 20s after all the academies.
It's
priority,
the
compensation picks, priority picks.
You don't do it. You don't.
I would say it's a Tom Powell. It's a Tom Powell from North plus something.
I agree.
Tom Powell
100%.
by himself probably doesn't get it done, but Tom Powell plus something, maybe a swap a pick somewhere or other might get it done. But we hold the whip hand. We've got the contract. So, either Western Bulldogs or North will have to pay overs. And I just don't think we're not in the right stage of our squad development to be looking for giving away, best 25 player for a pick that that will be compromised.
Absolutely. 100%.
So I wouldn't do it for a draft pick.
Their argument will be that, Butsy's not even really, he hasn't played the last month or so that we don't want it. He's not in our best team, but when you're a key defender, I think, and contracted, I don't think we should care too much about that. I think there's too much demand. There's already demand for him now. Imagine what it's going to be like when trade period starts. So,
I think say whatever they want.
Unless it's, I'll be honest, unless it's in the pick in maybe the teens. Mid-teens. Even you reckon that that's because that's we're talking.
We don't need a
first
pick.
round pick there for
but even a pick in the teens will blow out to about pick 25.
And
With all
there's
this-
there's no ready-made
Academy
midfielder. There's no ready-made midfielder in this year's draft that we're going to have access to. And the only way, that, in my opinion, that you get rid of Butts is if you trade him for a ready-made midfielder. So if there's not one in the draft,
Correct.
then the only way is to get him by a trade. Tom Powell, I don't think, has shown enough for North, maybe lack of opportunity.
I don't think he fixes our problems though. Like I know he's a ball magnet, but he's. I think most would say Tom Powell's relatively vanilla. I don't think we need more vanilla.
No, but the only other thing that you would do would be to try and work a situation where we maybe get into Zach Bailey, or we get into Sam Flanders or someone like that. Otherwise, no deal.
We are pursuing Zach Bailey. Yeah, we are pursuing.
Yeah, I know we are. Yeah, so maybe Butts comes into that in some sort of one of your favourites, Macca, a bit of a three-way.
Only 3. Okay.
Jeez, Macca, you're
Wow. He likes to get in and under. He likes to get in and under.
I am joking, but in all seriousness,
Does Mrs. Macca know about this?
No.
she doesn't know a lot, mate.
Wow.
No,
Let's just move on before you get into hell trouble, mate.
I'm talking about the old days, mate. The old days.
Yeah.
Now coming back to the footy, I would trade Butts and I'd throw our pick 18 into it as well. What was it? Is it pick 18 or would we drop back down? Thinking does our pick move? Or is it fixed at the end of the minor round?
No. So we finished fifth, so it'll be pick 13 or whatever. Like basically
14. Pick 14.
14.
Yeah. Add a few compensation picks like the Allen pick and TDK.
Yeah.
We'll move back further now.
Well, I would be happy to trade him, Butts, and pick 14, but I would want a gun midfielder for that.
Yeah.
And
that's the only way it gets done, Mac.
Yeah.
In my opinion. But anyway, let's not stray too much into that conversation just yet, because there's still a fair bit to unpack from this game. I mean, I guess the problem is, though, from my perspective, is that it's fairly cut and dried. I can't believe that we didn't bring any sort of intensity at all to the contest in terms of our desperation at the ball. We'll go through the stats in a minute, but we lost every contest, every stat that we've prided ourselves in this year. We lost, big man, you talk about a bit of sickness at the club or whatever, and that's fair enough. That's fine, but I don't think that's going to get you maybe in the second half. But to have 3 goals kicked on you in the first 5 minutes, and maybe and really not look like it. We weren't close, right? It just makes me wonder where the boys' heads were at the beginning of the game.
Well, you still have to. Yeah, I was just going to say, we haven't mentioned it yet, but I think we should mention it, because we were only just travelling. Only just before with the final started. But I think the Rankin thing was just the final straw, really, in terms of the fact that, apparently Rankin killed people and stabbed people and raped people because, the way he was being vilified, I think he must have done something like that. I have never seen media hop in and kill a bloke like they have. I mean, seriously, for one word, this guy has been crucified, bashed and vilified and pulled apart to pieces. I've never seen anything like it. And it's the anti-Crow from the media. They got the opportunity to really dig in. They really just slashed it. It was a Crow's fault for booing in the crowd, stuff like that.
Don't you use that as fuel, Macca? And this is the problem that I've got with the whole thing. We seem to shy away from it and try try to excuse it or whatever. We should be using that as fuel. Nick should have had that up on the bloody whiteboard, all that shit that was going on.
I agree with you, 100%. But they didn't. I mean, the club won't come out and apologise for the booing. For fuck.
I know that was terrible. You know, sorry, Adelaide Crows fans, don't be passionate.
Oh, absolutely. The whole thing really was like we were the hated team. Now, if I was playing, that would just spur me on. But you know, that when you've got the people who run your club telling you that it's all wrong, Jesus. I mean, and they made it. If I'd been running the club, I would have said, look, he said a bad word. He said it. He's got a penalty. Let's move on. I don't want to hear another word about it. But no, we just said all the right things. And I just think the players all dropped their bundle because they did not come out with any intensity at all in either of the two finals. They came out poorly and they played poorly. They didn't have that in like that. They didn't have it.
No, they didn't have any mongrel.
I thought it was no mongrel. They was just soft. And
let's not forget
doing that, they threw our game plan out the window.
Yeah, and let's not forget it was first V8. You know, Hawthorn only scraped into the finals. You know, 1v8, and you know we were playing a semi-final, having finished top. We should have gone out to absolutely destroy them in the first quarter. Absolutely put the heat on them in the first quarter. Even when we got the game back, sort of, you know, level pegging, it wasn't on the back of aggression. You didn't see any increase in intensity. I didn't see our pressure rating for the game. I don't know, Macca, whether they put it up on the tally, but I would imagine it wouldn't have been any better and maybe worse than the Collingwood game, which was only in the mid 180s or whatever. It wasn't. There was no. It was so obvious at the game, wasn't it, big man, that there was just no intensity, and it was like things like not being strong in the air. Like Jordan Dawson dropped a few marks that normally he would hold, and it was just strength in the air. You know, strong hands and strong body, and we kept getting brushed off the ball. They kept breaking tackles. We kept dropping marks in contested situations. There was just absolutely no fire in the belly, and sick or no sick, you don't come to a knockout final that you have to win in front of your home crowd, and the home crowd were up and about at the beginning of the game. It's probably one of the loudest crowds that I've ever experienced in that first few minutes, wasn't it, big man? Everyone was trying to will them to get up and going.
Yeah,
and they offered nothing.
It's frustrating. It's almost a bit of a betrayal thing because like this whole year we've praised this team for constantly backing it up each week, coming to play, fighting games out, and a lot of the time that's resulted in wins. Our combined margin of our losses for those 5 losses during the year was 51 points. We lost these 2 finals by a combined 58 points. So in 2 games have lost more than 5 combined. So we saved our worst for the finals, which is obviously a fantastic thing to do. We just look listless. We look like a team without hope, and I think that's where you say there's no aggression and there's no none of that cutthroat sort of finals sort of style intensity. And you only have to look at the contested possession differential to see that.
Yeah.
Is that that's indicative of a team that's almost given up before the balls even bounce? Like,
yeah, I
think we have to look at like what the hell went wrong. I think Matt I think the other ranking thing can't be underestimated, but there has to be more to it than that because it's not good enough, man.
No. And speaking of not good enough, and I know we've made a bit of a joke about it over the last few weeks, but it's gotten to the point of being a trend, not a aberration. Riley O'Brien's performance in that game was and I'm not even talking just about that stupid kick. His whole game was pathetic, absolutely pathetic. And like clockwork, and we joked about it, but it was bloody true. From the moment the ink hadn't even dried on that contract, where his intensity levels dropped 20%. And, the fact that everyone sees it means that we're not seeing things, right? It's been a palpable reduction in his intensity since he signed that contract. And I think that's disgusting. And if I was the club, I'd be rewriting. I don't know whether they can, but I'd be rewriting that contract.
Macca, what was the first thing we heard from Rob after he signed that contract? Do you remember what happened?
No, go on.
He was asked about Nixie making a call to Sam Draper, and he started up talking about how he was concerned about that, and that wasn't part of the process of the negotiations, and he's concerned about Draper potentially because he thought he was the number one ruck. Yeah. Like if that's the mindset of Rob. Like Rob is look, this is ad nauseum here, but he's a fantastic hard worker, and when he's mentally in the right frame, he's actually a genuine, competent ruckman who can take good marks. He's certainly not a dud. But as soon as he takes his foot off the pedal, his weaknesses, and he has quite a few of them, they're exposed, and they're exposed badly. And he's gotten worse and worse since that contract signed. We joked about it, Finn, but there's always a bit of truth to every joke. And unfortunately, we got the bad Rob again.
Yeah,
well, it just happened every year. Every contract year for him.
Well, Meek, I had 39 hit-outs. Rob had 25. And Meek had 15 disposals. Rob had 7, including that kick, which will be highlighted forever as how not to kick a football.
I've seen under 8s kick better than that, Mac. He's an AFL level football. Sorry, he's an AFL level footballer that's getting paid probably what, 600, 700 a year now, and he can't kick a drop punt on the run.
That was just. I thought when I saw that, I thought we have no hope. When you've got an AFL player doing that,
but we laugh at it. We laugh about it, but we've got a serious problem with him now because as much as our midfield got torched, the simple fact was that Meek was able to put it wherever he wanted. And that was that. Yeah, certainly the reason, and he did. The reason why Newcombe was able to play off the back of their centre work all the time is because Meek was just able to put it wherever he wanted. Meek was totally predictable in what he was doing. Their midfield could understand what Meek was doing, and the only time that they didn't get a result was when Rob nullified the ruck. But nothing around the ground. He got absolutely beaten up around the ground for the second week in a row, probably about the fourth week in a row, if you include Cherry and even the West Coast game. He didn't play that well. So we've got a problem with him. We've now got 3 years on his contract.
Mm. Even in his bad games, Fiend, Rob usually at least wins the hit-out count. So, to get smacked in the hit-outs is Jesus, what is going on here? And look, we'll have the whole preseason and stuff again, and I'm sure Rob's going to be the number one ruck. But if you want to get something out of Rob, you got to make him uncomfortable. I'd be playing McAndrew as the number one ruck, almost training him as the number one ruck during the preseason. Even if it's just to bloody fire Rob up and make him not feel like he's locked in for the next 3 years, because we know he's a repeat offender now. We know he can't play when he's comfortable.
Yeah, and I know people laughed at me about Draper, but you would never get that. You would never get that output from Sam Draper. You would at least get a bloody effort and a contest. And I know Sam Draper's out of the picture now, but I would have Sam Draper in a heartbeat over Riley O'Brien.
I know it's one kick, but I have never, and I've been watching footy forever, I have never seen either in the Sandful or the AFL a grown player, an established player, kick a ball like that. Never. That is pathetic.
He wasn't even under pressure.
I know, that's what I'm getting at. That's why I can't believe what I saw. It was just once I saw that, and I immediately said to Mrs., "We are rooted. We are." When I saw that, Jeez.
Well, there were too many things like that that were momentum killers. Alex Neil-Bullen had a shocking night by disposal-wise. I lost count of the amount of times he missed a target. We had a few blokes missing targets, kicking over. Like our entry into forward 50 was shocking. I thought Riley Thilthorpe early was carrying on from his game against Collingwood, and I feel like when Riley's not 100%, and I know he ended up having a good game, but in that first quarter he was running under the ball again, and a few of our blokes were running under the ball. When you're a lead out forward and the ball's coming in and it's kicked a little bit higher or whatever, you'd stop and prop. Our blokes just continue to run and run under the ball. So I wasn't... Riley has a habit of doing that, and it was a throwback to his first couple of seasons when he would do that quite regularly. And I feel like when the big fella's not on song and his confidence level's not up, he tends to get a little bit soft aerially still. Credit to him though, he did bounce back and ended up being our best forward. And he did quite well in the ruck, I had to say.
I didn't love his ruck work. I thought Chol had too much of a presence at the ruck. Chol's just an okay ruckman. I thought he actually got the better of Thilthorpe at times.
Yeah, but Riley still did more at ground level.
Yeah. But I just thought in general he looked a bit off there. But, at the end of the day, he kicked 3 goals in a team that kicks, 8 or 9 for the game.
100%. He redeemed himself during the course of the game.
Yeah. He's copying it right now for his performances. He's the last person I'm worried about.
100%.
The only thing I didn't like, but there was a valid comment in there. There was 2 times that he actually looked like he deliberately run under the ball so he wouldn't get hit in the back.
Yeah.
He was going to he's definitely gone past where the drop of the ball is.
Yes.
And deliberately done it. It doesn't look good.
Yeah, no, and that's what he was doing year one, and that's where we had our worries about him, wasn't it, Macca? And when he came back all beefed up and was starting to hit the ball, it's like, all right, he's gotten through that. But I've noticed in the last 2 games, Collingwood, and it's been something that's really crept back into his game. And I don't know whether it's because he's not been well or whatever, but he's got to sort that out because we need him to be an imposing figure up forward. Things like the dish to Keys and a couple of running under the balls, that people get in his ear about that.
Well, against Collingwood, I think it was about 3 times he did it. He definitely did it twice in this game. So it doesn't look good. Having said that, I still thought he played a pretty good game. Don't get me wrong. But it's not a good look.
Now, we've got Arab waiting. I just want to make one more comment, Arab, before I get you on. The last thing that I want to say from a team perspective, and I'd be interested in your thoughts on this, gentlemen, is that we've had this mantra all year of team first football, and yet I saw from our senior players in particular a severe lack of team first football. We saw it last week a few times where our senior players tried to be the hero, Keys, Brodie Smith, Jordan Dawson, and I saw it again on Friday night where it didn't look to me like we were playing team first football. We seemed to go away from that mantra, and I don't know whether it's the senior players feeling like they had to do too much or whether that mantra was lost in the messaging leading up to the final series. What do you guys think?
Big man?
Yeah, look, these are the ones that you can only find out if you ask the players themselves, but I think, you raise something that's probably true there, Fiend, is that, when you're a senior player and things aren't going your way, the tendency is to be like, well, I've got to be the hero here. And usually if you want to be the hero, you got to do things that, you've got to be the clinical one, the clutch one who puts goals away and does it themselves. But it's much easier to be unselfish when you're winning, isn't it? Because no one's going to have a go at you for trying to center the ball and you accidentally turn it over, and because you're winning, so who cares? You're just trying to play team footy. But if you're losing and you do it, well, that's just emblematic of a team that's your mindset's wrong, or you're not good enough, and it costs you the other way. And so players want to be they want to be the man in the moment, and and unfortunately, what that means is that if you don't execute, it makes you look really bad.
So let me ask you a question. Let me ask you a question. In that elimination final against the Western Bulldogs back in, when was it, 2015 or whatever, when we won on the back of Cameron's goal at the death.
Yep.
What do you remember more, Cameron kicking the goal or Tex completely unselfishly centering that ball to Cameron? What's the standout moment?
Walker.
And that's exactly the point, isn't it? That's exactly the point. Tex could have kept going. He could have gone from 50. He was inside 50 when he kicked that ball, or thereabouts.
That was brilliant. Absolutely brilliant piece of play.
And have the presence of mind to actually not kick it to Jenkins and to kick it to Cameron instead. But that's where, in the heat of battle, being a team first player wins you games. And I just feel like I saw Geordie Dawson a couple of times throughout this final series try to win it off his own boot and fail to our detriment. There was a point in, I can't remember which quarter it was, it might have been the third quarter, they were kicking to the riverbank end where he had the ball about 55 out on the eastern half-forward flank. And there was no way he was going to make the distance, but he just, he passed it off, then he asked for it back, and then it ended up being some stupid little kick that got easily defended. And it's like, Geordie, what are you doing? You need to... And again, it's about trusting your teammates, right? If you think you've got to win it off your own boot, that means you don't trust anyone else to do it. And yes, when it's your turn... You've certainly got to do it, but not speculatively. If Tex has got a shot for goal from 45 or 50, I expect Tex to step up and take that kick because he is capable of doing so. But when it's speculative and there are better options, you've got to trust your teammates and you've got to bring them into the play. The best teams do that. Collingwood and Hawthorn have both done that during the course of their matches against us. So... Look,
I think you got it right there, Fiend. You had a nice little summary there where you said, basically you're saying that, when players, particularly senior players, when things are going wrong, players want to, like you said, they don't trust their teammates. Well, you get the first three goals kicked against you in 2 minutes. Of course, you're going to start doubting the guys around you. You think, well, I got to do something. And unfortunately, our players get it wrong. And there's a fine line between leadership and selfishness. Unfortunately, I think you're right. We veered too much into the selfishness.
Leadership.
It's that panic.
Leadership after those first three goals would have been Jordan Dawson going and standing on Newcomb's foot. That would have been leadership, irrespective of what the matchups were supposed to be. Fuck it. Sam, you're getting towed. We need to steady the ship. I'm going to sit on him for 5 minutes. That would have been leadership.
Well, but I do think, though, that Big Man was right in one particular sense that when you're playing poorly and players that normally would do well aren't doing all that well, and the team is starting to go down the gurgler, I think it is natural for people who are meant to be leaders of a club to actually what they do is hyperextend what they're trying to do because they're thinking, well, it's not happening normally. I have to do it, sort of thing, and it's not the answer. What you said is right. What you have to do, but I think it gets through to the players that they think that.
Yeah.
Now,
I was going to say, Macca, that maybe this year we didn't have enough experience in terms of being in bad positions and having to adjust, but we did have some games, particularly in the second half of the year, where we were trailing by against Hawthorn and against Collingwood, we conceded big margins, but we had the whereabouts steady and get back in it. It's somehow they just went missing in the finals.
Even West Coast, we were down until the death. All right, now Arab's been waiting for ages, so come on, mate. We're busting to hear what you got to say. How you going?
Good. How are you guys going?
Good, mate.
Good, mate. I hope you've got all the answers for us, mate.
No,
Give us some positivity,
I
mate.
don't. The answers I've said it before. We all know, just getting a new coach, but that's not the thing that I want to keep going on and about. Like we've done since probably 2022, I think. The biggest thing that I want to say that's really frustrating is the fact that there is no arrogance with this team. There is no like screw it. I'm just gonna take the kick and pray. And when players do that, when they show their arrogance, it's stripped away. Like look at Rochelle. I think it was last year when he made like a little funny comment and then got dropped the next week.
Yeah, exactly.
You need
Agree
that.
with this.
You need that. Like all the great teams have that. Look at Hawthorn. They were the most hated team, and they still are because they play with that confidence, with that arrogance that the
And
coaches
they would never have
stripped away completely.
They would never have dropped Ginnivan if Ginnivan had done that to a Collingwood crowd.
No.
And
Well,
that's
actually,
just,
no, good point, Aaron. Very good point, mate.
so.
I think that Arab, like it stands from the top too. Like we're talking earlier about how Nixie was sort of nervous for these games. He'd almost conceded that after we had won against Brisbane and another game as well earlier in the year, that we got lucky in a way, and that we shouldn't have won, but we didn't. I think I sort of criticised who was it at the time, Fagan from Brisbane, for sort of being like, I think we actually sort of should have won that game. And at the time I was like, oh really, like Fags, but now I see what you're saying, Fiend, is that it's an arrogance, it's a confidence that flows into the rest of the group. And
it's
I'm
messaging.
sure Nixie, I'm sure what's his name, Sam Mitchell would have said, oh look, you guys have got this time, like compared to what we did last time and everything. I don't know if Nix has the ability to make our players feel like they can beat the world. Because it seems that a lot of our nervousness, I have no doubt, stems from Nixie and obviously the other coaches.
100%.
Because we showed a bit of push and shove, but I don't think there's a real arrogance or aggressiveness about this team. And I think that comes from the top, and I don't think that's going to come from Nix, because that's not who Nix is. Nix is stubborn, but I wouldn't call him an aggressive or like cocky bloke, particularly not in the public sphere. And sometimes you need a bit of that shit about you. Like that's what Sam Mitchell's is the most cocky bastard going around, but he's a damn good coach, isn't he? So
I mean, everyone else wants to punch Sam.
mindset.
Everyone else wants to punch Sam Mitchell in the face, but I bet you to a man, Hawthorn supporters love him to death. And if you like, he played that way as a captain, and he's coaching that way as a coach, and he has that team strutting around, like you say. And you're dead set right, Big Man, and it's a great point that you raise, Arab. I 100% agree with you.
And the other thing is, Finn, you said something earlier in the year, and I feel like it's going to be true if we don't fix
Everything
this.
I say is true, mate.
If the higher ups don't do this, and that is, and that is that we might turn out to be the next Port, where we do pretty well in season, and then don't have the capability of the coaches to win a final. Now, if we have changed as a club, and if what's the guy that we bought from? He left the name of mine from Richmond.
Murray Davis.
Murray Davis and all these people. If we actually want to change, and we don't want to be that next Port Adelaide or that next team that just makes it to the finals and that's it, we need to change something. We need to be like, you know what, screw it. This is not going to work out well. Let's get a new coach. Let's change it up. Get rid of the midfield coaches. But I hope that that's what we are. And I don't think we are that way. I think we're going to stick to Matthew Nix because he did better than we did. And we're just going to do the same thing next year and probably the year after. And we're going to waste, this window that we got open now.
Well,
Yeah,
Tim,
the only thing I would say, Aaron,
go on, Matt.
I was just going to say, I agree with you about Nix. No argument about that. The only thing I will say is, and you talk about the midfield coach, if you look at our midfield and you just compare the players that we have in the midfield with every other team in the competition, including a lot of the teams that didn't make it through to the finals. And we have the most average, apart from Dawson, who's not really a midfielder.
He's not a midfielder.
He started off. No. You look at who we are using as midfielders, and certainly with Rankin missing as well, we're talking about very average blokes. Very average blokes. These aren't top of the range midfielders. And look, if we could have had, say, Carlton's midfield or say Freo's midfield or something like that, we'd be flag winners, because they've got match winners in there. Ours aren't match winners. But
well, and not only that,
say to that is that
not only that. If I can just butt in there, and I know that the injuries have played a part in this, but I will never forget, Macca, 2023 after round 6, and we were overperforming in 2023, and it was on the back of blokes like Berry and Pedler and Rochelle. And as soon as we got a sniff, he reverted to senior players, and we spent the rest of 2023 lamenting that. Now, a lot of people have been on Sam Berry's back about his performance on the weekend, and fair enough, he didn't have a great one, although he's the only bloke to hit anyone on a lead-up pass, but we'll leave that. But the simple fact is that Berry got put into the wilderness for a year and a half because they picked bloody Matt Crouch, right? So that's a year and a half that Sam Berry hasn't had any development. Harry Schoenberg, I know that, he had his Achilles, and I'm not saying for 1 minute that Harry's, gone on from strength to strength, but he got discarded. Luke Pedler has not played in the midfield after, at the back end of 2023, having some fantastic midfield minutes and showing himself to be a clearance machine. Josh Rochelle had amazing clearance work in the first half of 2023, has hardly been sighted in that midfield since. This is the problem that we've got, because now we're in this situation where we've got a hybrid midfield where really the only two genuine mids that we've got in there are Berry and Soligo. Every other player that's in there has been brought in there from another spot, like Dawson, Rankin, Peatling. These blokes are all hybrids that have come in that aren't natural midfielders. And you can see it. When you actually look at how they work in the midfield, you can see it. They are not natural midfielders. And yet we've got blokes like Zach Taylor, and we've gone through it already. Charlie Edwards in the twos and all the rest of it. So I feel like the club got ahead of itself after round 6 or round 7 or whatever it was in 2023, got ahead of itself in terms of where they thought the list was at. And ever since then, our squad development has stagnated, bringing in blokes like Lockie Murphy, who should not be anywhere near the team. And we've actually, as a consequence, set our development back probably 12 to 18 months. Big man, what do you think about that?
You're talking about starting SANFL midfielder Lockie Murphy, who never features there when he plays AFL. But
I'm talking about
that's my
how,
point, though.
Yeah.
That's my point, though, Finn, is that, even we can't even get it right in the SANFL. We play Jay Boyle as the top-up and Lockie Murphy, who only plays as a small forward at AFL level. That's two of our starting midfielders. So, that's great development, isn't it? Isn't that what we use the SANFL for? I don't understand the ideas there. I think, and I was going to say this to what Mac was talking about. I agree on paper that we clearly don't have as talented a midfield as other teams. But having said that, it's up to make the most of what you have to work with. And you can't tell me, especially a team without Will Day, who's their best mid by far. And I know Newcombe's had a really good final series, so don't get me wrong. I'm not underrating him. But you can't tell me Josh Ward, who's only just started to hit some form, and James bloody Warple, is that intimidating a midfield that we should have get absolute pants by, but we did. And I think that, some blame has to go to not just the development, but also the coaches and Nathan Van Berlo in particular. We have to look at what is he doing right there, because our clearance differential, even as a good team this year in the home and away season, our clearance differential was once again pretty ordinary.
And we were relying on the next contest.
Yeah.
Winning the ball back.
Clearly isn't as isn't as talented as other teams, but we're not as in sync as other teams. We're not as good in terms of our clearances as other teams, particularly in the back half of the year. So I don't think it's just the personnel thing. I think we're not making the most of what we do have, and our players aren't being instructed right. Like even Sid Draper, I'm starting to get worried about some of his work in the midfield this year. I agree. And like I get it. Like he's a, he's a first year player. He's obviously fatigued. I'm sure he'll be much fresher next year and play a lot better. But we've seen this before. Even like we saw it with Chase Jones. Like even the guys we bring in who are natural midfielders, some of them just don't improve because for whatever reason we don't know how to develop them like we do our key position players. And I think we need to look at development, and I think we need to look at Van Berle as well, because I don't know. Can we argue that Van Berle is doing a stand-up job?
No. You play like you coach. The players play like their coach, and he shows them like where to go. He does this. Van Berle was just your average, hard-working midfielder, and that's the players he's putting in there. That's the players he wants in there. There is no creativity. Like there is no what's he done that's kind of different that you got like, oh yeah, I see what you're trying there. He would never like put Rachele back in there like they do with I keep forgetting names, like from Brisbane, you know what they do with their players and what Collingwood does. Like where is that creativity? And I hate this narrative, oh, we don't have the players. We do. We always get him, but we just don't develop him. It's that simple, and that falls on the coach. And if the coach doesn't do that, then he shouldn't be coaching. It's really that easy. It's not, you know.
And we've seen throughout the year, like even at times like Pendles in that Collingwood game, LDU, I remember against Northwood talking about it. There's times this year where we've just let opposition midfielders just stand by themselves at the sweeper side of the stoppage. And it hasn't been adjusted until like quarter or half time. Like that has to go down to Van Berle. He's the one responsible for midfield structures. So I think it's obviously we criticise Nicks, but I think Van Berle has to be talked about as well.
I reckon that's a fair comment because of the fact that if you just have a look at Hawthorn, I mean, it's not like Newcombe was picked up out of he wasn't like a number 2 or 3 draft pick. He was a mid-season draft pick. He's been picked out of a local club situation, and he's been developed into a very, very good. In fact, he's one of the best midfielders in the comp at the moment. But that didn't happen overnight. He came into the AFL situation, and he's been developed into what he is now. And I think your point, big man, to be beaten by bloody Warple as well. I mean, who at best is an average player. He's been struggling. He has a bit of
Hawks fans want him out. They want him to get traded.
Yeah, but he was one of their better players. So which again is a big condemnation on the people that were standing him. So we obviously aren't developing our midfielders as well as we should, and we're also not necessarily developing the right people as midfielders as we should. So,
I mean, we've been screaming for. I reckon he's had OP all year.
Well, we thought that last year. Like, has he got it again? Like, he doesn't. He's not moving as well.
Did you see him go down at one point against Collingwood? I think it might have been in the third quarter, and was clutching his groin. And at first, I thought he caught one in the nuts, but he did. I looked at it again. He didn't. He strained his groin. I reckon he's had groin problems for 2 seasons now.
And look, we've talked about like during the year, like sometimes he looks good, sometimes he looks off, and he looks fatigued. That would be indicative of someone who's struggling with some sort of ongoing groin issue. Yeah, he's been, but like at the same time, like we can't just say, he's just injured. Like he's out there playing, and he's fallen away badly this year at times.
Arab, thanks, mate.
I think in general our midfielders have. Sorry.
Sorry. We kind of ignored Arab. Arab, if you got any more to say, come back. But in the meantime, we've got more dots here. Let's see what he's got to say. Someone that's not frightened of having a word or two. How are you, mate?
Yeah, good, thanks. Just basing on the points you were talking about, look at Hawthorn. They were absolutely smashed in the midfield for years, but they developed the players that they had trust in, that they knew were going to get the job done. Like Newcombe, etc., right? I mean, we've fucked it all up, right? We fucked this rebuild up, right? You look at our forwards and our backs; they've developed. We developed the forwards and the backs, but we've neglected the area of our team that wins finals, and that's the midfield. We haven't developed enough midfield players. It's simple as that. I mean, all year we were smashed from centre clearance. How can you win a final? Like Kane Corns was right. Like how are we going to win a final with sub-average midfielders in our team? We barely won 5 centre clearances throughout the whole final series. It just went forward every single time for Collingwood and Hawthorn. Like you can't win any game of football like that.
Quite spot on. Absolutely spot on.
Well, it certainly doesn't put fear in the heart of the opposition, does it?
Yeah, we've got to address the midfield, guys. I mean, we've got to do a Hail Mary here. Like, our forwards and backs are ready, right? They're ready to take the next step, okay? I think Tex, he needs to hang up the boots. You just If you can't get out of a jog, you just can't play AFL, okay? The guy was struggling to run, okay? So he's been a champion of our team, but he just has to go. I'm sorry. It was really embarrassing watching him run, like, try to get into a sprint on the weekend. And I think you just got to put the faith in Fogg now and Phil Thorpe. Phil Thorpe's ready. Fogg, I'm a bit concerned about, but there's still something to work there with. I think for the midfield, we need to recruit someone like Clayton Oliver. I know he's like struggled the past few years and stuff, but maybe like going to a new state and a new team will help him.
He played 22 games.
Player that we need.
He had a full season this year, and by the back end of it, he wasn't doing too bad. I'd be quite happy to chuck a bit of speculative money at Oliver. We need some quality in there, and I know Oliver's disposal isn't great, neither's Petrarca, but he's a premiership midfielder.
Yeah, he's exactly the type of player we need, and Crouch has hanged up the boots now. He would have been nice to be in the team, the last 2 games, because he can actually win the ball. Right? Like, we just didn't have anyone that could win the ball in the center of the ground. It was shocking, guys. I don't know. I don't have any words about those 2 performances. Even I came on last week and said we're not going to win. Right? You can't have any hope after that game, because we barely won a center clearance. It's not going to win any high pressure game of football when you're getting smashed in the center of the ground. You're just not. It's not going to happen.
And another midfielder that we haven't really talked about yet, but I want to raise him because I also felt like he fell right away in the finals. James Peatling, hardly sided both games. Hardly sided, Mac.
Couldn't understand the management of him, though, Fane. Could not understand the management. I mean, he didn't start on the ground in either game.
No.
I mean, he is our best fighter for the ball, best scrambler for the ball. And yet he did. He spent. I can't remember what it was, but there was. He started on the bench. I think he only had a very low percentage of the first quarter. I just can't understand the usage of him. He is the one player that will at least fight and scramble for the ball. But I would have to say that his ego must have been dented as well. He wasn't even used as a starting midfielder. So
Laird had more clearance, more centre bounce attendances.
Yeah.
Than Peatling.
Yeah.
I just don't get it.
Zach Taylor had 3 more than Peatling.
I don't get it.
Didn't go into the midfield until the last quarter, basically.
Yeah, I just don't get it because that is one Peatling's strength is scrambling for the ball and fighting for the ball. At least if he doesn't get it, holding it there. So I just could not understand the usage of him at all. I was a total loss.
And like you said, Macca, he's a workhorse, and we needed a workhorse to bloody hold him up, and he wasn't given the opportunity. Mordot, what else you got there, mate?
Just another point that we definitely cannot extend Matthew Nicks this off-season. You just cannot extend this guy. Right? Yeah. I mean, if they extend him based off finishing minor premiers, then yeah, we can just lose all hope, guys, winning a cup. That guy just doesn't have any creativity, doesn't have enough creativity, and doesn't have the tactical nous to take us forward and any further next year than what we were this year. And I think we had a very good draw this year. We had a lot of results go our way with Collingwood falling away to finish minor premiers. We should not have finished minor premiers, right? We were very lucky to get minor premier. And yes, we need to take a risk, guys. We need to go very, very hard at Zach Bailey, and we need to take a punt on Oliver from Melbourne. So yeah, that's all I got to say. The midfield needs to be addressed this off-season. Otherwise, we're just going to be in the same position next year, and probably worse, I'd say.
Yeah,
I'd be very happy with those two draft picks. Those two players. I'd be very, very, very happy with that. No, I think that's one of the stories of the tape. But just on Nick's, what is his contract situation? Is it
two more years,
contract until the end of next year?
Next year, is it?
Yeah.
I thought he got another 2.
He did this year and next year.
Well,
I thought he got 3 extension. Well, I guess I got it wrong.
Well,
Either
yeah,
way,
I thought you had another. No, right, end of 2026. Okay. Well,
that's it. That makes it interesting.
Well, thanks for believing me, you two bastards.
Sorry, Fane.
Sorry,
I'll say this about I think with Bailey, like that's a long shot. I think we can't get too excited there because he's still contracted for next year, so he's a free agent next year. They can still wait on him unless someone really pays up, and that's assuming he wants to leave anyway. He might just be doing the groundwork now and just stay in one more year before he leaves. It depends, I guess, what his reasons are for leaving.
We were going to throw 1.5 by 7 at Nasiah Wanganeen Miller. We've got the money. I'd be putting $2 million over 4 years. Yeah, no, I'd be putting $2 million over 4 years to Merritt. I'd be putting $2 million for 4 years at Flanders. I'd be putting 2 years at $4 million. 4 years at $2 million. I don't think
Flanders wants. I think he's going to. Flanders is apparently going to Victoria, but I will say this, Fane.
Yeah, but he's going to Victoria. But you overpay. We are going to have to overpay to get a quality midfielder. That has always been my argument. Always been my argument. If we want to get quality mids that aren't South Australian, like a Zach Merritt or a Zach Bailey or whoever, then you have to pay overs. That's the reality of being in Adelaide. And we have to we've got the money. We have to do it.
One interesting thing is that Toomey, he put out an article tonight. He was, one of his sort of whispers or whatever, and he was talking about, the first time I've seen us linked to Zach Merritt. So that was interesting.
No,
he actually mentioned us.
No, we have. I knew that. We're trying to get him. We have been chasing him.
I know, but from like a real like official source, like if Toomey's saying it, that's pretty interesting. Yeah. He's a Essendon Nuffy. So like if that's come from him, that's interesting. He also linked us to Oliver. Now Oliver's one who's, if you've been on Big Footy, that one's been talked about a lot because Viva La Matna has been on that bandwagon for a while. But I thought that was interesting. He linked us to Oliver and Petrarca, but it was just so that's interesting to see because these are coming from Toomey. So if Toomey's linked us, that's not for no reason. He's actually done that for a reason.
Yeah, no, he will only put stuff. He will only put stuff out if there's some legs on it.
And to be fair, it was about like, how can the Crows improve? But he did sort of. I don't think he just mentioned those names willy nilly. The one thing just to the call, like I agree with most of his points. I still think we got to be careful. Like with the thing with Tex, I still think we should retain Tex. And I know like he looked really bad on the weekend. I get that. I wouldn't be surprised if he was one of many that was hit by the flu. He played really quite well against Collingwood the week before in a game where he got smacked. I don't think we have the firepower up there to replace him. Like, I know you said last week that we adjust and we. I mean, it'll be interesting to see what they do, but I'd back him in based on what we've seen this year. And I know the end can come quick, but if we had more in reserve, then I agree, Finn, because I'm all about development and prioritising youth, but I don't know if we have enough in reserve to get rid of Tex when he's still capable of kicking bags.
But go on, mate.
Well, I would just say, I would keep him, but on the basis that you're not necessarily a regular. You're going to have to earn your.
That's not how it works. Brodie Smith played how many games this season? Like we didn't expect to see him. Lockie Murphy. Like if Tex is on the list, Tex will play senior footy. You will not see Tex Walker play in the seconds. It just won't happen. Won't happen. And, like, yes, Tex on his day can still be a good player. And, yes, Tex on his day allows us to spread our forward line, although it didn't really pan out that way in the finals. But the simple fact is that we have to move on. He was less consistent this year than he was last year. He had too many games this year where he was down. Last year I think was his swan song and it was fantastic. But he probably had 50% of those games this year. He's only going to have, say, 30 or 25% of those games next year. We cannot afford for him to still be at full or in that forward line next year, in my opinion. But whether he can still do it or not, I think the time has come for us to move on. And it doesn't mean we have to have the same configuration up there. You know, we can try a Braden Cook down there. We can try a Luke Nankervis down there. You know, Tyler Welsh gets another run at it maybe. Who knows? We might recruit someone. Toby Murray maybe. You know, I just think we need to move on. I really do. All due respect to Tex, I just think we need to move on.
Well, we differ on that point, but we'll see. It would be interesting to see what the club does.
Mac, you and I have always said, Mac, you and I have always said that this club will not move forward until we get rid of that 2015 squad. And we've got 3 left. Tex, Smith, Laird. And that's not a knock on any of those players, but we need to move on from them.
No. Psychologically, yes, I have to agree with you. But, it's hard to say goodbye to Tex.
Of course it is. Absolutely. He's been an absolute champion for the club. And what he pulled off last year was amazing. And the fact that he's been able to get through another season and get to 300 is a fantastic effort for him. And I'm so glad that he got it. But I would be really happy. And I'm sorry that Tex has never achieved grand final success. But there's plenty of fantastic players who haven't. And I would hate Tex to go out on a whimper. And I just feel like if he plays on next season, he's going to fade away. He's going to go out.
We thought that this year, man. We thought that this year he still had a pretty good year. I know. He had an
okay year.
Nearly 40 goals.
Yeah, an okay year.
I mean, that does. It's hard to sort of to get that from somewhere else. And I know, that's not how it works. You don't just lose a player and you've lost all those goals. You make up for it in different ways. And I see your point. I just wonder if it would hurt more than it helps to get rid of someone like that.
Well, ask Brisbane whether losing Joey Danaher has hurt them.
Well, they might go just get knocked out in the prelim as opposed to winning a premiership. They have gone backwards this year if they do that.
Them. They've just reconfigured their forward line and they've found that young lad who's an absolute gun. What's his name again? I love him. Love the way he plays. Oh, love the way he plays.
He's like Jack Gunston Mark II, isn't he? He just has an amazing ability to not just kick goals, but anytime he gets the ball on the boundary inside 50, he centers it and it always goes straight to the target. He's one of the best kicks inside 50 I think I've seen.
So good above his head too. Now, we are interactive and we do have another person who I don't think has been on our podcast before. Mason, how you going, mate?
Welcome, mate.
Yeah, I'm doing quite well.
Or just if you can turn up your mic or speak into the phone a little bit closer, that'd be great.
Yep. Is this better?
Very quiet.
Yeah, that's better. How you going?
Yeah, quite well. I thought I'd try to bring some positivity to the podcast.
Oh, why you got to do that
obviously
for?
Quite negative. We did finish 15th last year, so a lot of positives going into next year.
Oh, yeah. Definitely.
Yep.
A lot of players are taking leaps. Like Curtin could be anything. He's been a revelation this year. So yeah, I don't know.
I think it's
tough
fair.
final series, but I feel like it's all doom and gloom at the minute. But you should be excited as well.
Well, we've
Yeah,
just gone
like,
out
it's
in
a fair
straight
point.
sets after finishing top, so forgive us for being a little bit down.
I think that you have to be careful about being all doom and gloom because, I mean, you're right, 15th to... I mean, we talked about maybe we're flattered by finishing first, but we're definitely a top 4 team this year. And that doesn't just happen by chance. We actually were playing some damn good footy throughout the year. I thought we showed us a new resilience that we hadn't previously had. Fortunately, we seemed to lose that the finals time, but that's all right. You're right. Like, you know, there are things to be excited about going forward. I think, you know, Thilthorpe, you know, all Australian, and he's only 23, so you know, the world's his oyster basically going forward. Curtin's the one that I think we were really excited about. I know his finish to the year wasn't as hot as how he played throughout the middle section of the year, but I think he showed enough in that 6 to 7 week patch to suggest that once he figures out his game and he gets played in the right position, that he's going to be a real star for us. And you know, I know we're worried about Draper, but I think that we still need to. Hopefully, we can be patient with him and he can give us some spark in there, even though he's got some deficiencies. Yeah, like there's enough to. And look, as a whole, our group is not particularly old. I know a couple of guys are pushing towards 30, but for the most part, a lot of our best talents between 22 and 25 years old. So I think there's still enough to be excited about. The question is, you know, I think the worry is, like, did we make the most of our chances? Because there's no guarantee we'll be around next year in the finals. But, you know, at the same time, I don't think we can be too doom and gloom because we showed at times this year. You don't win 18 games by chance, do you, Fiend? Like, we played some damn good footy.
No, you don't. That's correct, and you know Mason's right to bring a little bit of positivity to the show, but you know you don't win 18 games. But to me, and I don't know how you guys feel about this. To me, finals football becomes a very simple game, and I feel like Matthew Nix is a stats guy. He loves his numbers. He loves his setups and all that, his systems and all that sort of stuff. And that's all well and good in minor round. You know, you can set up your team and play a certain way. But finals football is very simple. You've got to beat your opponent to the ball, and you've got to use it better than your opponent. It really does come back down to that. You can have some defensive setups and all the rest of it, but at the end of the day, Hawthorn wanted it more and Collingwood wanted it more, and when they got it, they worked as a team both times and they used it better. And we'll go through the stats in a minute, which will bear that out. So I just wonder, and I've always wondered this, whether Matthew Nix has got the chops to go up against a McRae or a Mitchell under those circumstances, and the other coaches in there as well, because I feel like he's so rigid. He's not a flexible thinker, and that's where I think, you know, we're talking about personnel right now, but I think at the end of the day, our biggest problem is Matthew Nix. Anything else you'd like to add, Mason?
No, not really. I think you guys have covered it all so far, so I'll head out.
It's great to have you on the show, mate. And we smashed you.
I was trying to stick up for you there, Mason, but I think Fiend was like, no, we're not having this positivity.
No, we're not having positivity tonight. No, I appreciate you coming on. Good to have a first time. You haven't been on before, have you, Mason?
No, I haven't.
No, perfect. Well, don't let me put you off, mate. Keep fighting the good fight.
Stuff.
Thank you.
Thanks, mate.
All right, let's quickly look at some bloody stats, shall we?
God. Don't look at the stats, Fiend. They're the most one-sided stats all year I reckon we've had.
Well, it's funny, when I was putting the slide together, it was very similar to the Collingwood game. 340 disposals to 365, 220 kicks to 222, 120 handballs to 143, and that stat's quite interesting because that's where I felt we fell down in both matches, and we had a deficiency in both matches where we weren't prepared to run. And unfortunately, when you're playing a kicking game, and we saw it earlier in the year, we were playing a kicking game, but we were moving that ball on very quickly by foot, and it was actually quite effective because it was allowing us to get through zones quite comfortably. But unfortunately, as I think it was Matthew Lloyd highlighted today on the Footy Show, we were just moving it laterally and slow, and even at the ground you could see it. We would just get tucked up in that half back or back pocket position regularly because it was just a bailout nothing kick, and then we'd just have to kick it down the line. At no stage were we using handball, and now 120 handballs in a game is bugger all. Inside 50s, 43 to 64. As I said, we couldn't really transition the ball. Efficiency inside 50 didn't really matter because we didn't get it in there enough. Marks inside 50, 6 to 17. Now, the other thing, big man and Macca, that I always harp on, don't I, Mac, is where our forward entries come from. And at various points in the last few years, I've highlighted the fact that when we're playing well, our forward entries into forward 50 come from forward of centre, 60 or 70 metres out. And when we're not playing well, our forward entries tend to come from just around the wing, just forward of the wing. And if you have a look at where our forward entries came from against Hawthorn, we were coming from so far back all the time. We weren't penetrating. We were always one possession too short before we went into forward 50. We were just bombing the ball in. We hardly hit up a target. I mentioned Berry hit one up out of the middle. Might have been one or two others, but by and large we were just bombing it on or over our forwards' heads. Mac, how did you see that?
Well, that came about because of the lack of running, which you mentioned before.
Correct.
If you look at the way we were playing during the year, it was very much the way the Hawthorn played this game here. That when we did get the ball in the back lines, we would have players running forward everywhere. That we had options everywhere, and all they did this time was just not make that run. They just stood in a position, let somebody else do the running, or just let us kick to a pack. And they showed some vision on after the game or somewhere. I saw this vision where they showed that so many times we'd get the ball in the back lines and we would have no one to kick to at all because nobody had run, nobody made a move. And so we're doing crisscrosses backwards and forwards in the back lines. Meanwhile, while the wall's getting built and making it even harder. And if you look at the Hawthorn, the one thing that they do is, and that I was having nightmares before this particular game, because the one thing that was really worrying me was Hawthorn's run. The very fact that as soon as somebody gets a ball, they all run. So there's options everywhere. Now, they might not be the right option, but they're all running because they're making a sacrifice that they're prepared to put the effort in to create options. And when you've got 6 or 7 players.
What that does, Mac, it gets the defence out of position. When you run at them, it gets the defence out of position.
Yeah, that's if everybody runs. They all have to react. And then because only reacting, they can't actually get into a defence position very quickly. Not if the ball is moved at lightning speed, which is what actually happened. They really worried me. I was really hoping that they lost and that we would actually play GWS, because I thought we could beat GWS because they don't move the ball at the same speed as Hawthorn. But Hawthorn, I don't think they're the most talented list in the competition, but I do think they are the team that moves the ball the fastest. And that's where they caught us out every time.
Yep.
I
Clearances.
was say, if you're the problem there, Macca, is that it's probably just postponing the inevitable. I agree, we probably may have been able to take it up to the Giants, although the way we played, who knows? We probably got beaten by most teams. But I would have felt more confident playing the Giants, but then we played Geelong next week and we would have been absolutely smacked.
Yeah, I fear what would have happened in a prelim, to be honest.
Yeah. So I feel like in some ways it's just postponing the inevitable pain that we're going to have.
Yep. Clearances, 10 centre clearances to 14, 20 stoppage clearances to 22. I felt like their clearances were far more damaging than ours. And I've got to say, another bugbear of mine, if you're employing or if you're seeing a situation where we are hack kicking, so out of the middle, our disposal wasn't that clean. We're like, Saligo tends to dump it out. Dawson often dumps it out. If you're a forward and you know that the ball is going to come in a haphazard way, why are you standing so far behind your opponent? The amount of times our forwards were caught in those circumstances 10 metres behind their opponent, I wanted to go out and punch someone. Our forwards don't seem to inherently want to play in front. For some bloody reason, out of those centre clearance situations or out of a hat kick situation, the amount of times we got caught behind, Riley O'Brien was doing it too down the line when we were hat kicking it down the line, seemed to invariably get caught far behind the players. If you expect, like there was one where Zach Taylor kicked it about 15 metres and Meek marked it, and Riley O'Brien was 20 metres behind him. It's like, Zach Taylor's never going to kick it 70 metres, let alone in the last quarter of a bloody final. Like, I just don't understand that mentality. If you're a forward, play in front. The amount of times you see opponents kick it out of the centre and take a mark at bloody centre half forward because their forwards in front, it really bloody bugs me. Anyway, that's my rant. One of them. Hit outs 36 to 43. Contested possessions 105 to 136. Supposedly our one would. We didn't even fire a shot there, and that was most noticeable at the ground. Uncontested posies 216 to 222. Marks 98 to 85. Given the amount we were using by foot, that's not surprising. Turnovers 14 deficit 77 to 63. We had a similar deficit against Collingwood, despite that usually being a stat that we win, and of course scoring off turnovers then becomes a bit of a problem. 56 tackles to 51 wasn't great. If I just have a look at some of the pertinent, more granular stats, we had 5 goals 3 from stoppage and 4 goals 3 from turnover. They kicked 10 goals 12 from turnover, Hawthorn. 10 goals 12. Unbelievable. We trained to score was only 14.5, which is very, very low. Our defensive half to forward 50 was pretty low, and it was slow as well. Let me have a look at our clearance stuff. So our post clearance ground ball gets, which has been a number one stat all year, 64 Hawthorn, 44 Adelaide. So we got pumped there. Post clearance contested possession, which we've also been 1 or 2 all year, Hawthorn 89, Adelaide 72. Ground ball gets 95 to 65. It was the intensity that never allowed us to get, or the lack of intensity that never allowed us to get into the game. Everything else is peripheral. That was the number one thing. We just did not get our hands on the ball often enough first.
And it's amazing to me that we performed that poorly in that area. When you're playing in a cutthroat final, to be beaten as badly as that, it's I don't know. They might have thought they're going 100%, but how can they be going 100% and be that poor?
They were reactive all night. It was so noticeable at the ground, Mac. It was infuriating. They played with no intensity, and it didn't. Against Collingwood, it kind of looked like nervous energy to me. But against Hawthorn, they were just out-muscled to the ball. The Hawthorn just simply wanted it more. Just wanted it more. We didn't seem to have another gear to go to. We didn't seem to have that urgency that Hawthorn had. And it's an indictment on their preparation. They should have been breathing fire, big man. They should have been breathing fire. That was the thing that probably disappointed me more than anything else.
Yeah, and look, I alluded to earlier, but I think some level I know it's a piss weak excuse really because it doesn't look good when anyone says it, but there has to be some legitimacy that a lot of our players were fatigued and off because of getting the flu. And I know that's like I said, it's like a weak excuse to say because it shouldn't matter, but it looked like it at the ground, didn't it? Like that we looked off. But I also think that's but I also think that's this has been building for a little while, and I think Macca talked about it earlier that Rankin thing. I think it's not so much losing Rankin as it is. I think that losing someone of that caliber, obviously dented the confidence of the group to think that they have what it takes, and then I guess because it just you could see it on the field against Collingwood. We look like a team that didn't believe it was supposed to be there.
Well, that's an
I agree
indictment on the coaching staff.
It's an indictment on the coaching staff, but also the players because we've got to be better than that. Like Hawthorn didn't have Will Day, and they've won 2 finals now playing away.
Yeah,
we're playing at home.
I agree with you. I agree with you, but what was I wonder what the atmosphere was like around the club because to me it seemed very deflated. And it was the coaching, and we don't know what happens behind closed doors, but we can only kind of guess and surmise. But to me, it looked like they didn't believe. And what should have been the case was the coaches doing everything possible with their media work, with their messaging to the players, all the rest of it. They should have been doing everything possible. Even the way they handled Rankin, I thought was wrong in that respect. Rankin should have been in that group, pushing them on, powering them on, and they sent him away overseas in that first final situation. They should have been using Ranks as a motivation, and it was probably Rankin's responsibility. He's the one that cocked up, so he needed to be in there firing them up. I just feel like the club shat themselves collectively. They just shat themselves.
Yeah, I don't think they did. They didn't handle it as well as they could have. There's no doubt about that.
I don't know if there was a right answer there, Macca. Like it's easy to say in hindsight, but like we were there at the time. Like the media scrutiny about Rankin was ridiculous. Like you couldn't really blame the bloke for needing to clear his head and get out somewhere. I don't know if he had to go overseas, but certainly, there's multiple ways we could have gone about it. I said last week that I'm still happy the club looked after him and sort of backed him in by going for pushing for a reduction and everything. We didn't just let the AFL just roll all over us, which we've done in the past when it comes to sanctions. But we got bagged out for that. We got criticised for that, and people, particularly in the Victoria, hate us for trying to challenge the ban. They wanted us to roll over because so you're damned if you do, damned if you don't. But I feel like that sort of all against us mentality, I think it looks like it got to the players and the club and had them feeling like no one wants us to win, and I don't think we can win because we've lost Rankin now and everything's against us. Now we're sick. We look like a team. I got to be honest, on Friday I thought we looked like a team that had pretty much already given up on winning a flag.
I 100% do think that. I think it did have a marked effect on. I think the club did err though. I mean, in one area, I do think that if any apologies that Rankin had to make should have been made before he went overseas, not when he came back, because that was just too close to the game, in my opinion.
That's a fair call.
To me, I think they should have. Okay, they fought, and I think they were quite right in fighting to get it down because I don't think. I expressed it before. I think it's totally wrong that you get penalised because other people have done it in the past. That doesn't happen in a court of law. Somebody does an offence, they don't get another extra penalty because somebody else has done the same thing. We did the right thing by fighting it, and we got it down to 4, and I don't think even 4 was a lot. So, the media can go and get stuff because clubs fight everything, and that other clubs do when they've had suspensions, and quite rightly so. That's their job. Then he's got his 4 games. Then we should have apologised to everybody, then sent him off on his holidays, And in fact, I wouldn't have brought him back till after the game's been played. Quite frankly, I just would have kept him out of the area so there was no.
Needed to be
I would have
involved.
tried. Well, I would like to have just killed the whole thing. Just kill it.
Yeah,
so
well,
there was nothing
here's
to
what I reckon.
talk about.
Here's what I reckon, Macca. We were, earlier in the season, we were the media darlings. So like, oh, look at these cute little Adelaide Crows jumping up all of a sudden. Isn't that wonderful? You know, blah, 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 blah. And the moment we became a threat, it all came tumbling down. I think it's about time our club embraced being fucking hated by the rest of the competition. I think instead of trying to be the nice club and trying to be the accommodating club and trying to be the good boys and all the rest of it and doing the right thing and saying the right things and all the rest of it, I think as a club, the only way that we're going to turn our culture around and gain some respect in the competition is if we embrace that negativity that comes at us, embrace that being disliked by the Victorian football community and the Victorian media. Back, you'll remember, and Big Man, you probably do too, the State of Origin days. They fucking hated us, and we hated them too.
Oh yeah.
And I feel like as a club, we need to embrace that. It doesn't matter what we do. They are always going to have a chip on their shoulder about the Adelaide Football Club. For whatever reason, and it doesn't matter what the reasons are, we've been going for 35 years. They've always hated our guts, right? So we're not going to change their mind. So let's embrace it. Embrace the hate. I'd love to see us come out in a bloody new away Guernsey that was bloody black with a frickin' skull and crossbones on it and just say, fuck you all. We're going to take a few heads. We're going to take a few... we need to do it. We're not going to do anything by just kowtowing to the Victorian media because they will never give us an even break.
Yeah. I think we hated before back-to-back, but once we beat we stopped like two fairy tale Victorian teams from winning flags.
Yeah, but they don't even give us credit for that.
People over the edge.
They don't even give us credit for that. They reckon we were lucky to beat bloody North, and they reckon we should never got to the GF because poor old what's his name didn't get paid a mark in the prelim, the Geelong guy.
Oh in the semi, Lee Colbert.
Yeah,
that was in the second quarter or something, wasn't it? Anyway,
no, it was in the last. I think.
Was it? I feel like it was early in the game. Anyway,
no. It was in the last quarter.
I was at that game. But yeah, I was just saying, I agree, and I think that mentality, if you look at the players, and we talked about the coaches before, but even the players for the clubs that are at the pointy end this year, Collingwood, Geelong, Hawthorn, they have some real shitters in their teams. Real
100%.
Guys you hate, and we hate them as much as anyone. But at the same time, you sort of have to look at it and think, well, is that part of why they're winning? Does that arrogance come with that? I agree. I think people will, Port supporters and stuff, will say that we have an arrogant team, but I disagree. I think if anything, we're not aggressive enough in that space.
We're meek.
And agree.
And you pointed out, Finn, they're going to hate us regardless. So why not embrace that going forward? And I mean, I'm sure you liked it. I'm sure you liked it when we had Rob come out the next day and not appreciate the booing of Quainer and stuff. Do you know what I mean? I don't think we need that. People can make their own minds up of whether we should have booed Quainer or not. I didn't boo him personally. I didn't think there was any need. But there's far worse things you can do at a bloody footy ground than boo an opposition player.
Throw a banana at an Indigenous player.
Yeah, well, that's true. That never gets talked much anymore, does it? Or you can, does it? Have players that are abusing female photographers at multiple times,
training sessions,
at training, at open training sessions. But
no
that's
comment.
right.
And no comment, no penalty.
Because half the media barracks of Geelong, Macca.
Yeah.
So of course they're not going to want to bring it up and dismantle what's probably going to be a flag for them.
Or a bloke that gets rushed to hospital because he's ODing in the middle of a season. Look, I think
a player with a finger injury that's lasted all year for some reason.
Yeah. Well, no. Let's not touch that one. Let's not touch that one. But we've.
I said he's had a finger injury.
Yeah,
Didn't
he
even say who
sure
it
has
was.
had yeah, let's just move on. God damn. Get me into trouble. It's my name on this fucking thing.
We're on the same Geelong. There's something else, mate.
You're
It's all right.
called
But
Big
it works
Man
for
and
mate. It
you
works.
won't even turn on your camera and you're trying to get me into bloody litigation, you arsehole. But I think the club needs to review the last month and how it's gone, publicly and in the media and all the rest of it, and just fucking have that on repeat during pre-season, and just get the boys fucking uptight about it. Just get them uptight about it. And every time we have a media appearance like Matthew Nicks on bloody 360, don't sit there bloody tickling Jared Waitley's nuts. Fucking get into him. Like, I'm sick of it. I'm fucking sick of it. We are such a pushover as a club, and it comes out in the way we play in big moments. And, Don Pike came out after 2017 and said our players were mentally soft. Well, maybe it's our club. Maybe it's our club culture that is soft and meek, Macca. Maybe the club itself needs to go, fuck you all. We're here to win flags and we don't give a shit about you guys. And I'm sorry that I've started swearing.
No, but we as a club, we do try to be Mr. Good Guy. And Mr. Good Guy doesn't always win. The other club, some of the other clubs there, they're much tougher about it than we are. You take St Kilda, Ross Lyon. Do you think he's going to take all this sort of shit? No, he's not. And and he wouldn't let his club do it either. We just. I just think we were weak as piss. Pardon me. We were really weak with this whole Rankin episode. We really were. And what we should have done is done the right thing. We got the 4 games. Get Rankin to apologise, piss him off, and refuse to talk about it anymore to the media. Just to go away. It's been done and finished, and refuse. No more comment.
All right, I need to calm down. So let's talk about a couple of players that can hold their head high. Rory Laird again, 30 touches, 7 marks, 5 tackles, 1 inside 50, which is not enough for a midfielder, which is basically what he was. 5 score involvements, 4 clearances, 8 contested possessions, 266 metres gained. You can't say that Rory Laird didn't try. I felt like he probably played. Him and Josh Worrell, who we'll talk about in a minute, were probably our 2 most consistent finals players.
Well, in terms of effort, those 2 were elite. They weren't necessarily, not saying elite players, but they, in terms of effort, compared to the rest of the team, those 2 were elite.
Yep. And talking about Josh, 33 disposals, amazing, 589 metres gained. I felt like he used the ball better this time. Not as much kicking around the body as against Collingwood. I felt like he was looking for opponents. Unfortunately, at times, as Macca pointed out earlier, that the options just weren't presented to him. So it meant that sometimes he was a little bit slow to dispose of the ball, but I don't think that's necessarily his problem. He didn't have a lot to kick to half the time. 12 intercepts, 10 marks, 3 inside 50, 7 contested possessions, 3 score involvements. I would say that Josh, Riley, Thilthorpe, and Dan Curtin, with a little asterisk on Mark Keane, probably our success stories for the season.
Yep, I think that's fair. There'll be others too. Like I think he had a pretty poor first final, but I think Wayne Miller's second half of the season's been good. Hopefully, hopefully he could step up just a little bit more next year and have a great season, and that'll make a difference for us because we don't really have a whole lot of great halfbacks. But he'd be up there. Those players you mentioned, and like Josh, it's funny because. And it might not suit him or you might not want to, but I actually think down the track, once Dawson's near in the end, I think there's something about Worrell that in that Sicily mould that could actually make him a really good skipper for the team because he cares greatly for his teammates. He's aggressive. He's consistent. He's an extrovert. I think there's something there. I was actually thinking this last year, and I actually hoped he could make the leadership team this year, but he didn't. But going forward, I wouldn't be surprised if he's in the leadership team this time next year.
Yep. Hawthorn had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. The first 6 highest rated players on the ground. Then it was Worrell and Laird. Then they had the next 2. Then it was Curtin. Then they had the next 1, and then it was Smith and Thilthorpe. Apart from Laird, we didn't have a grade midfielder in that highest rated. Saligo was our other highest rated, and he only got, well, how many disposals did he? And he got 15 touches. So very disappointing. All right. Yeah. So we will obviously have a bit of a season review podcast in the coming weeks. So I don't want to get too bogged down in what we should or shouldn't be doing. I think we've covered off everything that needs to be said about that game, unless you boys have got something else you'd like to add.
The only thing I would like to say is that overall and we have said it, but it does hurt to play a whole season and then get into a final round and play with a lack of intensity as a team that we did in 2 finals games, not 1 but 2, and also for somehow to completely lose your game plan, just completely lose it, and I just that has to be a mental state, and that we didn't handle the whole thing very well mentally, because the physical result is a case of the mental input, and then for me, they just didn't handle it very well. Whether that's the coaches, whether it's the players, whether it's a combination of both, it was really disappointing. But it's not the end of the earth, because I was reading about Brisbane, and with Brisbane, the failures they went through, they did exactly what we did in their first time they made in finals, the double loss, and it took them probably about 4 or 5 years before they actually won a flag. So I think what we have to do is, it's over and done with now, and we have to treat this as the starting point of when we're going to win a flag. This is the first step. We've done that. We failed to get past that, and then next year we'll have another crack, and let's hopefully we get up a bit further. And eventually, if we do have that perseverance and you do the right thing, if we do get the right players, a couple more players each year, we have to look at it positively, that maybe next year, maybe the year after, that we'll eventually get a flag. Because we have half of our team is quite young, so there's a lot to build on. So very disappointed with the game, very disappointed with last week. 2 bad losses, but having said that, it's not the end of the world. We're not going to win nothing this year. That's over and done with. But we can use this as a building block for the next 2 or 3 years. And surely, if we do the right things up, there will be a flag, if we do keep doing the right things.
Well said, Macca. I guess one positive
mate.
is, Macca, is that the boys won't get ahead of themselves, because after the last 2 weeks, it won't be like 2012, mate, when we thought, oh, here we go, we're going to go big now, and we'll flat the next year. Like, if anything, the worry is if the boys are going to be, it's going to kill their confidence. They're going to actually be so down in confidence going into next year because of this. That's the question mark. But like I said, they won't be arrogant, because I think we got shown up so badly that I don't think there's any room for that.
If you've got character, you take it as a lesson, and you know that you've got to work harder for next year.
That's right.
Yeah, well,
and look,
we backed this team in all years, didn't we? So.
There is precedent. Richmond struggled initially. They made 3 elimination finals and got bundled out each time before they did any good. Brisbane took quite a while to win their flag, 5 odd finals appearances. It happens in different ways to different teams, and realistically, at the beginning of the year, we would have been happy to make a final. That's the honest truth, isn't it?
It is.
And the top spot probably flattered us in the end. I think you're right, Macca, that Collingwood managing their squad a bit sort of took them out of the picture, which opened the door for us a little bit. And our draw was probably helpful as well in that regard. The big red flags was our performances, leading into the finals. It looked like we were gassed. And even Nick's a couple of times said, I heard him say that for some of the players it may have felt like a bit of a grind towards the end of the season. That's not what you want to hear. You want to hear a team that's bloody rare and that's bloody bolting into the finals, not grinding into the finals. So, again, maybe a player management issue there, or a messaging issue there, or maybe it was just an indication that we're a bit beat up.
Once again, it's sort of Dixie giving too much away again. Like, he's too honest sometimes, you know what I mean?
That's right. Yeah, that's right. So, pardon me. So, So we need to put it in perspective, I guess. I think what I was alluding to before when I was talking about 23 is that I think the club itself has maybe got ahead of itself a little bit in terms of squad development, and that might hurt us a little bit because there's some players that we probably don't know enough about, or that have been retained on the list for too long because we're shuffling the decks too much. So maybe all of those factors conspired to us just being a little bit of ahead of where we actually are. But by geez, it would have been nice just to win one. And the thing that disappointed me the most is just the lack of the fact that we went out with a whimper against Hawthorn. I just wanted to see some fight
from a team that had never had a whimper all year, basically, except for that Freo game.
Yep.
We saved it for the two finals. It's just, you can't. I mean, it was really a nightmare scenario, wasn't it? But it happened. So
yeah. So onwards and upwards, I guess. Now, Mac, let's just quickly give you your 37 seconds of fame, because of course we did have another semi-final, which was also pretty one-sided. The Lions 14-16-100 getting up against the Suns 6-11-47. The Suns probably running out of gas too, I think.
I think, don't really have to talk about it too much. It's just the situation where Gold Coast are virtually Adelaide playing against Brisbane, a team that's very finals hardened, very, very used to this situation. You've got Dunkley, who has, 18 bloody tackles or something for the game. I mean, they just throttled Gold Coast, never let them get their game going. Yeah. But in the meantime, good enough to get their game going. So it's that finals experience again. And they were battle hardened. Gold Coast went in there thinking they could do it like we did. And we just found out that it's a different game once you get to finals.
Yeah. So that leaves us with the Cats playing the Hawks. Good rivalry there on Friday night at the G. And then the 2024 Grand Final replay, Collingwood v the Lions. I don't want to spend too much on it, but what are your tips, boys?
Big Ben?
For the two games, I think Geelong got in the bag this year. They're super healthy. If you look at the injury list, got no one except for Toby Conway. He's not even the best 22. And as for the other game, I think you'd have to back in Collingwood. Although I think this will be the tighter of the two games.
I'm saying Collingwood and Geelong to win the flag.
So, which is great, isn't it? Not just the same bloody teams every year, but that's all right.
I actually think the Hawks will beat the Cats.
Really?
Yeah. I think the Cats have had it far too soft, and I reckon Collingwood will get up over Brisbane, and it'll be a Collingwood flag.
Well, anything? Well, has ever played best on the day?
But who the hell knows? Who the hell knows? It's been as much as it's been in many respects a one-sided season from a top 8 to bottom 8 perspective. Anyone from the top 8 has had the opportunity to win. Hawthorn in some respects have a bit of a sense of destiny about them. I don't know why. It's something about bloody Sam Mitchell. I don't know. But I just think they'll make a GF. I don't know whether they'll beat Collingwood or Brisbane. Probably Collingwood, but yeah. Anyway, all right. Well, I don't know, gentlemen. Do we want to back up next week, or do we want to leave it to a post grand final session, and then maybe a season review the week after, and then a bit of a break until the trade?
Yeah, I'm happy with that.
Yeah, because I
Phil?
think we'll get more and more news about, particularly this week. We're going to get some list management stuff. There'll be players that get have their exit meetings, and there'll be delistings, and we'll find more about the players that we're looking at in the trade period. So maybe just if we allow a bit more time for news to come to hand, and
I think
we'll probably be able to give a better
meeting,
summary of things.
board meeting coming up this week ahead of the BNF, which you would think would be held in the next couple of weeks. Obviously, there's the Brownlow coming up. So I reckon we have a week off to lick our wounds next week, gentlemen.
Yep.
And we'll pop back in after on the grand final weekend to summarise that and talk about any news that's coming on. And we'll also announce winners of our tipping and fantasy league prize. I'm still trying to get some prizes out of the club at the moment, so we'll do that by then. I should have some. If anyone picks up the phone, if anyone picks up the phone.
You know, I said there's the the packer in the chat said, "See you on next Sunday for an emergency cast after Murphy gets another 3 years."
Who posted that?
B Parker.
Well done.
Yeah, that'll be a very that'll be. You'll see you'll see the Discord channel and the YouTube channel deleted if that happens. Honestly,
it was
so
an
look,
emergency on the weekend, Gene, so who knows?
That's the post of the day.
now who won today out of Glenelg and Norwood? Did Glenelg get up?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, the kick. Yeah, they had the Norwood had kick to win the game. They kicked the point, so Glenelg won.
Oh really?
I actually had the game. The game was on in the background. I couldn't have told you the result. I couldn't be stuffed.
Oh shit! Did I spoil it for you?
No, you don't care.
No, you won't spoil it. I don't care.
Okay.
So the only
I
thing
won't
that
watch
saves the only thing that
was on,
saves
but I
this
didn't take
season
notes.
is the only thing that saves this season is if the Mighty Blues get up and get over Brownie's Glenelg. I've been saved from getting a tattoo because I always said that I'd get a tattoo if Sturt and the Crows won in the same year. So we will be at Adelaide Oval next weekend, probably watching the Bays get beat up by the Mighty Blues.
Do you have tats at the moment, Peen?
No, not one.
You're going to die without a tat.
I'll tell you what. When was the year that? I think it was it either 97 or 98 where Sturt got beaten in the grand final by Port when the Crows won. I think it might have been 98. That's the closest it's been. When Port beat Sturt in a GF when the Crows won a flag. That's the closest it's been. Anyway,
They'll call you clean skin forever, mate.
that's all right, mate. That's all right. It doesn't worry me. But the Blues would have to atone for last year. So let's get around them. Thanks to everyone who's joined us tonight and throughout the course of the year. We've really appreciated the support. We'll go through that a little bit more in the coming weeks. But the support this year has been amazing. Our subscribers on YouTube has just about doubled, which is incredible. So much appreciation for everyone who's thrown us support through the course of the season. Of course, we've got a few YouTube members there, and we've got people who've dished in super chats and super thanks and whatnot along the way. So all the financial support that people have provided during the course of the year, I really appreciate that. Macca, big man, appreciate you both. Big man, it's been fantastic to have you on this year. You've added a sense of reason to the chat that I feel like it's been missing.
No, I agree. I agree with you. I reckon Big Man's he's an ace. I reckon he's a great addition.
was called a club shill on the YouTube commentary. So
Yeah, I know.
What?
I've tried to be a bit more aggressive in the back half of the year because apparently I was just a Nick sound piece, but that's all right. Yeah, no, it's. I mean, obviously we have another thing to go, but
Yeah.
you know, I'll thank you guys anyway. Now, like, it's been brilliant being able to chat with guys that know their shit about footy and not just the Crows, but the AFL in general, and guys who have, you know, and obviously you guys are funny blokes, but you also have really strong opinions on footy, and to be able to discuss it and give my own thoughts as well. It's been a joy. So thanks heaps, and I'm looking forward to the podcast in a couple of weeks because you know, there's always something to talk about, isn't there? So thanks.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Well,
Trade week and
I'm glad he's here, Fane, because you know I used to get all the whipping. Now you can share it around with big man, so you get some of it too, mate.
Mate, you used to send me text messages saying you loved it. You loved it every week. Give me more.
Absolutely.
Give me more.
Bullshit. The number of times we talked about Crouch is unbelievable, isn't it?
Oh, fuck.
I'm so
Thank
glad
God
he's
we
not
won't
playing.
be. Thank God that's never going to be a topic of conversation ever again. Jesus.
Christ,
also,
over him.
I've got to say my crowning achievement this year is to get Brownie on the podcast. People wouldn't understand how difficult that was, and he started off a little bit quiet, but he's getting the feel of it now. And I think over the course of the podcast going forward, you'll find that he may start giving me a bit more shit macker, because I tell you what, when the microphones aren't switched on, it gives me shit 24/7. So I've told him to fire up a little bit.
His problem is he's too polite.
Yeah, it's too polite. So anyway, all right. Look, that'll do us for now. We will see you in a couple of weeks. In the meantime, stay safe. Thanks again, everyone, and see you later.
Yeah, good night all.
Thanks, guys.